Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to 2C TV. This is your global news channel. I'm Maya 2C, and the European leadership have now moved a direct, made a direct move against the United States of America as well as their Israeli allies. Meanwhile, the Arabs, at least a handful of the Arab countries, are now creating a new alliance with the Israelis in the Middle East to fight against the Islamic Republic of Iran. We're going to show you the latest videos over the last few hours coming from the conflict in Iran, and also a major announcement in regard to a former elected politician in Canada named Goldie Gamari. We will be discussing all this during this live stream, and we will get your reaction as well. Slightly worrying updates coming in from Canada, which we will cover together. And also, there's double check. Okay, cool. Let's first go to the latest videos from the city of Isfahan. Overnight, huge explosions started happening. There was a lot of speculations. Now we know what happened. Let's go to Isfahan. Yeah, so then we discovered that the largest missile factory facilities and other weapons depot were the main targets. We do have some more videos. This is absolutely insane what happened in Isfahan. And some of the details that we have now received from the Americans and the Israelis in terms of this joint operation is that they had to use their bunker busters in order to penetrate deep into the underground facilities. So they did have their missiles as well as other weapons that have been buried into this, the largest site that there is in the center of Iran. Let's go to the next video. Quite close by as well. Wow, yeah. Now, there have been some retaliation from Iran towards Israel. The Islamic Republic launched a number of missiles, again, handful of missiles towards the center of Israel. There were a number of cars that were hit. The initial wave of the missile launches by the IRGC, no injuries reported. Then we had obviously a lot of damage to the properties in local areas in the center of Israel.
This car might explode.
Yeah, that is the next place we're going to go to is actually Tel Aviv, as you can see the situation in Israel, because this is actually several vehicles that have been on fire for the past few hours. One of the main reasons for this is that despite interceptions by the Israeli air defense system, the Islamic regime in Iran continue to use the cluster warheads. And I find it fascinating that there has been no outrage or reaction for the past, 31 days, 32 days, from the international community, including the United Nations, when it comes to the IRGC using cluster munition. This is why the damage continues to be done, regardless of how much you're trying to defend your territory.
נפילה מול הבית שלי, באותו רחוב מול הבית ממש. וואי.
Now, there have been a number of major strikes, different rounds of strikes in the capital over the last few hours. I did manage to speak to my dad, who is in Tehran after a couple of days. He is absolutely fine, and he's enjoying the fireworks from inside his house. There was a 3-story building on Tawhid Street in Tehran Pass, in the eastern part of the capital. Local reports on the ground stated that the building was an IRGC building. As you guys know, the Islamic Republic use apartment blocks to house their own IRGC members and their relatives and members, everybody else, so that they could keep an eye on all those guys. 2 bodies have been recovered from the rubble, and the building itself was used by the Islamic Republic intelligence services, and now it's gone. Yeah. James says, good afternoon, TC. Could you say hi to my aunt, CJ? I know she's watching. It would mean the world if you could. Thanks. Well, hello, CJ, and thank you so much for watching. Thanks, James. Ukraine to rescue. When I mentioned this a month ago, you brushed it off and said your crane needed to... Your crane? I think you mean Ukraine, not your crane. Needed to help themselves. I still say the exact same thing. The Ukrainians, obviously, there has been some support in terms of drone specialists from Ukraine. That's absolutely fine, and that's great. That's been they've been helping the Israeli side, but they should really focus on defending their own country. I'm not going to change my mind. They shouldn't do anything else. Ukraine should not get involved. Bill says Israel will insist on regime change. Your thoughts? My thoughts on regime change. You want my thoughts on how Israel wants regime change? The regime that since 1979 has been saying we need to wipe out the Jewish nation. My thoughts on that. I think my thoughts have been quite clear on regime change. In case you don't know, I'm slightly on the fence. I think I want the Ayatollahs to stay, right? As you guys know. Of course not. Regime change, yes. And obviously Israel has always been clear about their objective. That's why the Israeli Defense Forces, their military objective has been to eliminate the regime. The Americans' objective was not regime change. They're not against regime change, but the US military's operation is not to do regime change directly. It's to eliminate the threat from the IRGC. Yeah, of course, the Israelis have been quite clear from day one that their military objective is regime change, or at least what they call the collapse of the regime. Which is fascinating because somehow there is this weird pressure on the United States and regime change. There are a lot of people from the liberal side and the anti-war nutters who say, oh, Trump, what happened to your regime change? The United States military's objective was not regime change. It was to eliminate the threat from the IRGC. If you want to talk about regime change, go talk to the Israelis. And as they would tell you, they're only halfway through their operation. Let's go to more footage from Iran. Then we're going to talk about the Europeans. But when we mean Europeans, we also include the United Kingdom. Looks like hell. This is in the center of Iran. Yeah, we will talk about the Europeans as well as the Brits. Because obviously the United Kingdom is different to Europe, but in this scenario we are talking about both the United Kingdom and the continent of Europe. and how they have, specifically how they made a move against the American allies. But before we get to that, I'm going to show you a very interesting video from Kuwait. As you guys know, Kuwait have had some issues with self-defense. They have not been the best at air defense systems. Even the first couple of days of the war, we've had issues in Kuwait. A number of Americans, unfortunately, were killed and injured. But the Kuwaiti civilians have decided to take this into their own hands. There's a video of the Kuwaitis essentially using their own guns, their own weapons, to try to shoot down the IRGC drones. Not really sure how successfully, but watch this. Wait. Wait. Well, that didn't go well, but we don't know what happened after the video, so maybe they got one drone, right? But this is classic. But Prime Minister of Israel made a major announcement earlier on, and that is in regard to the alliance with the Arabs, saying that we are now officially forming alliances with Arab countries that are talking about fighting alongside us. Bibi said, in the past, I have had secret conversations with Arab leaders. I told them the moment Iran is able to, they will conquer you and topple your kingdoms. Back then, they didn't really internalize this. Today, they understand. So, considering that the Prime Minister mentioned the Arab countries that are talking about fighting alongside us, I'm assuming that there are only right now two main countries that are talking about this, and that's Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, primarily Saudi Arabia. Now, I was going to say once that happens, but it's still a case of if that happens, because the Arabs have been talking about this for the last couple of weeks. If the actual military action, a military movement happens by the Arabs, then some others would probably join, but initially it's going to be Saudi Arabia and UAE. But this alliance to assemble the Arabs, some of the Arabs and the Jewish nation is huge, because this is publicly and directly endorsing the operation that is led by the Americans and the Israelis in Iran. Because I think, considering that a few days ago it was already revealed publicly that the Crown Prince in Saudi Arabia, MBS, essentially said, yeah, destroy the IRGC, keep going, don't stop the war. He's been pushing for it, even from the beginning. I think they realized, well, at this point, everybody knows our intention. The regime in Iran also knows our intention, so let's just go all out. So now we are seeing coordination and cooperation between Israel, Saudi Arabia, and UAE at least. We don't know about the other countries. Obviously, it's not going to include Qatar, but it could include Bahrain, for example. But for now, we're going to go with Saudi Arabia and UAE, which is major. Obviously, UAE are good friends with Israel already. And this is also going to be progressing the Abraham Accords after the war. Now, meanwhile, while the Arabs and the Jewish nation are creating alliances, on the other hand, the European leaders and the British leadership have decided to block any support against the IRGC. Meanwhile, in London today, the former jihadi rebel and now self-appointed president of Syria, Ahmad al-Shara or al-Julani, met with Keir Starmer in Downing Street. The same British government, by the way, that wants to arrest Prime Minister of Israel because of the ICC arrest warrant, because they say that the Prime Minister of Israel is a war criminal, but a former jihadi rebel and the current president of a country that continues to target Christians and Druze and anybody that is not in favor of Damascus. That's okay. The priorities are quite clear. The United Kingdom, Despite the flip-flopping, we've had many U-turns over the last 3 to 4 weeks. One minute they said they're joining, the next minute they said they will later, the next minute they said, oh, we're not going to do anything, and then they said we're going to send support, and then they didn't, and then they eventually did, and then they said we're going to allow our Air Force bases to be used, then they said no, and now they're blocking everything. And now they're not even going to defend their own British interests and the British citizens. Americans and the Israelis are not asking the United Kingdom to join the war to help Israel or the US. There is a bit of a situation in the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. Between the two Gulfs, you have Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz, being relatively closed, is not affecting the Americans, but it is affecting the Europeans because their oil is stuck there. Their citizens are stuck there, but they don't want to do anything about their own British and European interests. So President Trump said earlier on, showing outrage, all of those countries that can't get jet fuel because of the Strait of Hormuz, like the United Kingdom, which refused to get involved, of course, in the decapitation of Iran, I have a suggestion for you. Number one, buy from the US. We have plenty. The US is fine. Number two, build up some delayed courage. Go to the Strait and just take it. You'll have to start learning how to fight for yourself. The USA won't be there to help you anymore, just like that you were not there for us. Iran has been essentially decimated. The hard part is done. Go get your own oil, President DJT. Now, then we had the French also kicking off, which was absolutely brilliant, because I don't know what side they're on at this point, because they're slightly confusing messaging, considering that the French were behind the creation of the Islamic Republic in 1979, and they've also recently declared Palestine a state without clarifying which border, which territory, which leadership. But the French have also now blocked the use. They've gone too far now, because there's one thing to get your troops to be sent to the Middle East. Fine. You don't want to do that? Fine. There's also the situation with the UK previously, which was to allow their bases to be used for American fighter jets to take off. That's all. Or, in this case, the French, who've decided to block their airspace, their own airspace, for what? Military troops? No. For transporting equipment for the military to Israel. Not even to Iran. Because they thought initially, if they don't really get involved, then they're not going to get the backlash, right? We're going to stay out of it. And if we stay out of it, then we're not going to get targeted. Well, the French and the Brits and the Europeans continue to get attacked by the IRGC on a daily basis in the Middle East. And now their oil is being held hostage. So, well done. That was a lovely diplomatic decision that you guys made. President Trump also hit back, saying that the country of France wouldn't let planes headed to Israel, loaded up with military supplies, fly over French territory. France has been very unhelpful with respect to the butcher of Iran, who has been successfully eliminated. The USA will remember President DJT. He's right. Especially if the next election in 2028, we get the Republicans winning again. Someone like Marco Rubio. It's going to be slightly problematic. Of course, the midterms are going to be difficult for the Republicans, but 2 years after that, when it comes to the next presidential election, despite everything that's going on now, despite the controversies around this conflict, firstly, by that point, there will be a happy ending for the Republicans, and also the US Democrats have no alternative as a candidate in order to win the election. So it's still more likely that you're going to end up with another Republican, which means that the European leadership are going to be absolutely effed for the next decade. Now, let's go to Iran. The latest video. This is absolutely fascinating. The Iranian people are now celebrating the new so-called supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, and I'm not talking about the pro-IRGC Iranians, I'm talking about the real Iranians, the ones who are against the Islamic Republic. They are celebrating Mojtaba Khamenei. Why? Because he is the first LGBTQ plus minus division algebra supreme leader. So, we are now seeing the Iranian people putting posters of Mojtaba Khamenei up on the walls with the flag, with the pride flag. Watch this. He's flirting with Mojtaba in the video. That's Mojtaba Khamenei, the gay of Hormuz. Not the straight, the gay of Hormuz. Okay. Oh, that's so good. The funny thing is, they're only making these jokes not because he's gay, but because he is gay. Because the Islamic regime don't like gay people, even though half of them are gay, naturally. So it's funny because they're supposed to be homophobic, yet they are the kings and queens of homos. But that's what you get. So there is also a situation in Tabriz, northwestern parts of Iran, in the Azeri areas, a region of the country. This is the aftermath of the Ashura division of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The whole building destroyed. Now, we have somebody who is very, very offended because Mojtaba is gay. This person saying, isn't funny. That's not even a sentence. You need to add the word it. Saying it isn't funny, not isn't funny. That doesn't make any sense. That's not even English. That's barely French. But there's also a footage from northern Iraq around Erbil, the Kurdish areas, with more IRGC drones targeting them, and we actually have an interceptor drone hitting a suicide drone from Iran. Watch this. Keep watching.
Yeah.
Here we go. Good hit, good hit. 10 points to Gryffindor. Let's quickly go to a major announcement by Admiral Cooper of CENTCOM, the US Central Command, and then we're going to talk about the emergency situation with former elected politician in Canada, Goldie Gamari. Let's go to Admiral Cooper.
Hi, I'm Admiral Brad Cooper, Commander of U.S. Central Command, here in the Middle East with our 50,000 service members to provide my 6th update on Operation Epic Fury. Now in our 5th week of the campaign, it is my operational assessment that we are making undeniable progress in eliminating Iran's ability to project power in meaningful ways outside its borders. We don't see their Navy sailing, we don't see their aircraft flying, and their air defense and missile defense systems have largely been destroyed. Despite our clear dominance, our forces remain vigilant. It's long been my belief that every success we have begins and ends with our people, and our warfighters deployed forward are doing outstanding work. During this trip, I've had the privilege to recognize and award our troops for their courage, resilience, and tenacity as they continue to go above and beyond. Yeah.
Pretty fun work.
Great job. Great job. You enjoy it, huh?
Thank you, sir.
How long have you been in?
12 years, sir.
Fantastic. How you doing?
Pretty good, sir.
I'm from Ohio.
Okay, what part?
Toledo, sir.
Okay, great. Fantastic, fantastic. Thanks for what you're doing. Much appreciated.
Yes, sir.
What's your job?
I'm a wizard for the Strike Eagle.
Okay, and how many missions have you flown?
Probably a couple dozen at this point.
And how long have you personally been out here?
Been out here only since February, sir.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, thanks for keep up the great work. Thanks so much. In the meantime, I'm wishing you all the best. I think of you every day and with a lot of pride. So thanks for what you're doing. I really appreciate it and couldn't be prouder. I met with our service members who are operating the most sophisticated and largest active air defense umbrella in the world, right here in the Middle East, to defend against Iran's indiscriminate missile and drone attacks. Since day one, our warfighters have also shown unmatched reach and lethality in systematically dismantling Iran's drone, missile, and naval capabilities by delivering a massive amount of firepower. Every branch of the military is achieving unprecedented success. Our naval forces have launched waves upon waves of cruise missiles and fighter aircraft from the sea. U.S. Air Forces have extended our reach with refueling tankers while executing a high volume of airstrikes into Iran with fighters and bombers. Our soldiers and Marines have delivered long-range strikes from land and mounted a robust air defense to not only protect Americans, but our partners as well. And our Space Force has given us the ultimate high ground, delivering space superiority, which has been a critical enabler to this fight. After witnessing the absolute professionalism, discipline, and dedication of our men and women in uniform supporting Operation Epic Fury, I just could not be prouder. And I know that their families, friends, and loved ones back home share this pride. So to all the moms, dads, husbands, wives, friends, and loved ones back home, thank you for everything that you're doing to support our outstanding warriors. There is no adversary too determined, no mission too difficult, and no task too great for our soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Guardian, and Coast Guardsmen that make up the most powerful military the world has ever seen. To all our warfighters, keep up the great work and Godspeed. Thanks so much.
Right. Now, there's a big update in terms of the IRGC's latest official statement and the situation with Goldie Ghamari of Canada. Now, Goldie, for those who are familiar, has a YouTube channel as well. Until now, obviously, she's been pretty proactive with the support for the Iranian people against the Islamic occupation. You might be wondering why you haven't seen her or heard from her over the last 14 hours or so. We can now confirm that. Let's go to the actual announcement by the IRGC and you'll find out more.
بسم الله قاسم الجبارین. با توجه به شرارت‌ها و اقدامات تروریستی دشمنان آمریکایی صهیونیستی و هدف قرار دادن منازل مسکونی مردم ایران در شهرهای مختلف، نیروهای مسلح جمهوری اسلامی ایران در اقدامی تلافی جویانه محل سکونت فرماندهان و مسئولان سیاسی آمریکا و رژیم صهیونیستی در منطقه و سرزمین‌های اشغالی را هدف قرار خواهند داد و من نصر الا من عند الله العزیز الحکیم.
Goldie has now surrendered to 2CTV. Unfortunately, she's now in an official alliance with a chunky yogurt of the Young Turks. Don't worry. That's a counter prank. Now that's what you get for coming for 2CTV, Goldie. Now the whole world knows that, or thinks, that you're now with the Young Turks. We're going to trim this. We're going to clip this moment. I'm not going to explain the rest of it. We're going to post that and see what happens. I'm not that mean. But yes, Goldie's new alliance with chunky yogurts. Not too well, right? Okay. Anyway, so this is what you get for pranking me. The main counter prank was actually the build up to this. Everybody was panicking, saying, what's happened to Goldie? Let's quickly go back to the latest updates and away from Chenk's big face and Goldie's beautiful face. Lebanon made a major announcement following the recent policy change that the IRGC have been banned. They have now also officially banned Hezbollah. So they have sent an official warning to the United Nations, the Lebanese government, saying that, dear UN, we now classify Hezbollah as illegal. So, essentially, the United Nations, UNIFIL idiots who have been responsible in Lebanon, their job was to basically tame Hezbollah terrorists, and for years and years they haven't been able to do that. In fact, they supported Hezbollah The Lebanese government, with the backing of Israel, have now told the UN, we're going to do your job. It's illegal. Get rid of them, especially their security operations in the south. So this is a major update. Of course, we have to now wait for actual military to do something about this. Let's quickly go to, speaking of obviously these weirdos, the Israeli Defense Forces earlier on hit Dahia, a massive base. Huge. Watch this. That's where you get. Let's watch that again. That was beautiful hit. Beautiful. There we go. F around and find out, you Islamist smelly nutters. And I'm not just talking about chunky yogurt. Okay, big announcement from the Chinese. Yeah, we have to talk about the Chinese. And also the other weirdos. Pakistan. At least China is a real country. Let's talk about this because one of the biggest problems that we are currently facing is Pakistan and China trying to meddle and intervene. We have a live feed from Beirut. This is China and Pakistan proposing a joint 5-point plan. Ooh, they can count up to 5 for an immediate ceasefire between the US US, Israel, and Iran. The problem with this is that nobody wants ceasefire. So the Islamic regime wants the war to stop, but permanently, not temporary ceasefire. But let's read the statement, see the 5 points, right? We do have also an official statement from the former elected politician in Canada, Goldie Gamari, who says, I surrender, with the white flag. Why are you using the French flag? Anyway, good. Okay, ceasefire has now been agreed between 2CTV and Goldie Gamari's channel. Everything is fine until we complete our nuclear program, and then we'll come back. All right, let's read the statement from China and Pakistan. All right, this is going to be fun. Member of the Political Bureau of the CPC, the Central Committee, and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the People's Republic of China, which has nothing to do with people, Mr. Wang Yi, and Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister of the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, Mohammed Ishqal Dor. Yeah, he can multitask. His deputy and also foreign minister. It's lovely. I wonder what his pension is going to be like. They met today on the 31st of March, and this is the statement, the 5 bullet points for ceasefire. Immediate ceasefire. China and Pakistan call for this to stop the hostilities and efforts to prevent the conflict from spreading. Humanitarian assistance must be allowed to all war-affected areas. Well, the first bullet point is nonsense because that's just the main objective, you idiots. You don't have to put in a bullet point. That's the headline. Anyway, bullet point number 2. Start of peace talks as soon as possible. Sovereignty, territorial integrity, national independence, and security of Iran and the Persian Gulf states should be safeguarded. Dialogue and diplomacy is the only viable option to resolve conflicts. China and Pakistan support the relevant parties in initiating talks with all parties committing to peaceful resolution of disputes. If I were President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, I would say, okay, we will talk, at least talk. If China writes down publicly, sign it, and Winnie the Pooh in Beijing, the president, says publicly, dialogue and diplomacy are the only viable options when it comes to Taiwan. I dare you. And also to the barbaric, backwards weirdos of a Pakistani government, you should do the same thing when it comes to Kashmir, when it comes to Balochistan. Yeah, I dare you. Do it. None of you care about diplomacy. None of you care about a dialogue. Bullet point number 3. security of non-military targets, the principle of protecting civilians in military conflict should be observed. This makes no sense because the first 2 bullet points was about stopping the war. Now, why are you talking about civilians being protected, which are being protected by Americans and the Israelis? China and Pakistan call on parties to the conflict to immediately stop attacks on civilian targets. That's mostly IRGC. And follow international law. Oh, F you and your international law. Number 4, security of shipping lanes. The Strait of Hormuz, together with its adjacent waters, is an important global shipping route for goods and energy. China and Pakistan call on the parties to protect the security of ships and crew members. You don't have to say it to both sides. You just have to send a message to the IRGC to stop shooting people. That would be nice. And finally, primacy of the United Nations Charter. China and Pakistan call for efforts to practice true multilateralism to jointly strengthen the primacy of the UN. Translation: everybody surrender and bow down and worship the United Nations. China and Pakistan don't care about the United Nations. They don't even follow the rules of the United Nations, but they want everybody else to do so. So these were the 5 nonsensical points. None of it makes any sense, and nobody cares about China and Pakistan ever in history. Okay, we have a big announcement. Unfortunately, Greg the Goat is not with me because he's still injured following an attack by Serafina the kitty, who used the chocolate cake to, I don't know why, to basically rub it all over him. Jamshid Eshaghi, who was a senior IRGC leader and senior also financial officer in the Islamic Republic military, has now been eliminated. Winning. Another one bites the dust. And finally, we have this latest footage from the Israeli Air Force releasing this, showing the strikes on the IRGC and regime infrastructure in the capital of Iran, Tehran. The Israeli Air Force have now conducted more than 230 strikes on the regime in the past 24 hours alone. 230 strikes. Look at that hit. Look at that beautiful hit. Oh, gone. Another one gone. So great work by the Israeli Air Force as usual. Okay, so going back to the rest of the reactions. Carter says those so-called allies in Europe and Canada, for all purposes, are on their own since they won't help the US and Israel and the Arab nations to fight. Yeah, let's not forget, the narrative is not that you betrayed President Trump or you're not helping the US. You're also betraying the rest of your allies. You are refusing to help the Arabs. You're refusing to help Israel, and you're also refusing to help your own British citizens and business people in the Middle East who have British interests. But the European leadership don't care. That's why they continue. Did the EU vote to start deportations as reported on another channel? The European Parliament debate, slight difference between the EU and the European Parliament. So the EU is the overall project, right? The overall entity. And the EU has 3 branches. The European Commission, which is the dictatorship, that's the executive branch. So the president of the European Commission is the dictator. She's not elected. That's Ursula von der Leyen. Then you got the European Council, and then you have which is the foreign ministers of the European countries. And then you have the European Parliament, which is a fake plastic parliament. They're not even allowed to propose their own legislations or laws. They can't. It's not their job. But they can vote on things. They can have debates. It's nice, right? But yeah, they did that, not the rest of the EU. It's up to the European Commission to decide. How can the Iranians take back their countries? You are witnessing it. We've just started. This is phase 1, the military operation. Phase 2, for them to take to the streets and win. The Iranian people are very kind. I hope Iran will become free again. I am from the UAE. God bless the Emiratis. What is the likelihood, in your opinion, of the US leaving NATO? As a US citizen, I'm seeing sentiments for leaving is growing. Yeah, but it's not going to happen. Firstly, if the US leaves NATO, NATO won't exist anymore, right? So you can't call it NATO. Then NATO is the US and the US is NATO, right? And the reason for that is because President Trump, by staying in NATO, can actually use NATO as leverage against their allies. You see the issue? If you leave it, then you can't do anything. So, and the White House want to ensure that they have control over the Europeans. And by staying in NATO and not helping the Europeans anymore, that's the best way to do it. So that's the reality. The NATO at this point is meaningless anyway. It doesn't do anything. It literally at this point you can see if one or two NATO members are getting attacked, the rest of them are not helping. So the whole concept has collapsed already. But politically staying in it and making problems for the rest of the membership, smart. That's what the White House are doing. Also because if you get a US Democrat becoming president, they're going to rejoin anyway, so what's the point? And that's one of the biggest issues that we are currently facing. What is the most likely reason the remaining missile launchers haven't been destroyed? Because Iran is a huge land, mountainous as well. So there's a lot of underground sites, there's a lot of caves, there's a lot of bunkers, and there's a lot of places to hide the missile launchers. And they are mobile, so they can move them around all the time. So they launch from one location, then they take it somewhere else, hide it, they go somewhere else, launch it. That's one of the main reasons. It's the whack-a-mole game that I've been talking about. But to be fair, huge chunk of them have already been destroyed. That's why you only get a handful of drones and a handful of missiles being launched every day. Same can be said about the drones. They still have a lot of drones. Drones are easier to make as well, but they have drone carriers. And but that's also relatively coming down, the numbers that are being launched from Iran. Any word on the peg leg, ham and eggs? No, we don't know. Well, apart from him going to gay clubs. We don't know. Please update us about the food and water supply of the Iranian people. So, talking to my dad, the hyperinflation means that effectively a price of one egg is now basically about $100. So almost. And it's difficult to, depending on where you live, cities are still okay relatively, but small towns and villages, they're struggling because especially if they are just solely relying on local farmers, they're struggling. But there is still food. Water is okay. There is water outages that keep coming and go in terms of the supply, but it's still functional. It's the same as a year ago. It's problematic, but they can still survive. But obviously, if the infrastructure, power plants and everything else gets hit, then it's going to be a crazy time. So if there is going to be a decision to hit the deep infrastructure, including energy sites, electricity and water and everything else, then that, in my opinion, that has to go hand in hand with the next phase of the war, which is basically that's chaos, which is affecting not just the regime but also the Iranian people, which should mean, theoretically speaking, the Israelis and the Americans telling people in Iran, now it's anarchy, take to the streets, we have fighter jets and drones providing you with air support. Again, that's easy to say, this is just theoretical academic sort of conversation about it. It's not as straightforward as that. But if you're gonna hit the power plants to paralyze the regime, obviously it's gonna affect the Iranian people. So you can't really just tell them, do you just continue to stay at home and everything's gonna get hit? Because they can stay at home, but they can't do anything else. There's no gas, there's no electricity. So that can come. If there's going to be, on the 6th of April, that's the deadline, right? That's the deadline that President Trump said. If he actually decides to go for the infrastructure, it has to come immediately with the next phase. Whether it's going to be some level of ground invasion and also air support for the Iranian people. You can't just hit the infrastructure and then just continue as normal with the airstrikes, because that's going to be problematic. everybody will suffer, but then they're just gonna have to wait. Wait for what? They don't know. Starmer and Macron are the ones who need to be arrested, not Netanyahu. Anyone else find it funny that Ali the Mouse was taken out by an order given by Israel cats? Mouse, cats, yeah. Is IRGC stupid enough to bomb Europe? No. And they can't, so... I am amused that people here in the chat just talking. Why not learn? Is it tough to accept real information? Thanks again, Maya. Just ignore ignorance. No, it's good. The ignorance helps because the more the trolls watch the live streams, the more it helps the algorithm. So keep watching and keep leaving comments. Are the Immortal Guard aware of the proxies coming from Iraq? Everybody is aware. And elsewhere. Long live the Shah. God bless Iran. Yeah, everybody in Iran knows what's going on. Word travel fast. Jay says Islam reverse the gay promoters. They're all gay. All in on Marco for president in 2028 for now. Is there any other champion for conservative values, friend of Israel and Iran, and protector of American interests? Genuinely want to know. Theoretically, Pete Hegseth, but we don't even know if he has any ambitions. But I think if Marco goes for it, or when Marco goes for it, Pete probably won't do anything. You never know. JD Vance will, but not sure about Hegseth. What do the Iranians think of Indians and Russians? They don't hate them. They're all Russians. Can they aid cultural revival in a free Iran? Yeah, of course they are. Iran is going to be the economic hub for investment for everybody else. So there's going to be a lot of investment from the American side. And I think the Iranian people should also remember who helped them and who didn't help them, and to be liberated. Of course, the Americans and the Israelis should be prioritized in the future Iran, any sort of partnership. Europeans, I mean, Europe is dying anyway. The economy and the stability and governance, Europe is not really a big player. So it's the third world of the planet at this point. I look forward to your live news. Thank you so much. Goldie is on in 30 minutes. Are you serious that she likes Cenk? Well, there's now ceasefire, so I'm not allowed to discuss that anymore. So, what the F? Then Goldie news. I started tearing up for a second. Glad she's okay. I'm glad it worked. So good. No, you can't stop till Goldie's regime collapses. I can assure you, Goldie's regime will collapse from within. We have our agents and operatives on the ground with Goldie's channel. Armin, Agent Armin, continue your work. You are supported. We will provide you air support. Now Armin's going to get into trouble. Great. Any info on the IRGC death toll? They're still in about 4,000, but the official numbers is different to reality, obviously. So we're probably looking at about between 5 to 10,000. And these are senior, well, mid-ranking and senior. So the rest of them, they have huge numbers. Obviously, they've got hundreds of thousands. But the rest of them will just fold once the main players are taking out, which is still going to take some time. Hi from Vienna. Why has the IRGC still has missiles? So because they hide them. They don't have many. And they'll probably still have, obviously, maybe 1,000, a few hundreds. But it's the launchers that's more important than the actual missiles. The missile launchers, you get rid of all of them, then it's over. They hide them. That's why they still have them. A month ago, Pahlavi's team released the Zamzam messenger. Do you have data on its performance within the Iranian intranet? Unfortunately not. It's been difficult, obviously, when it comes to the internet situation in Iran to actually even find out who's in connection with whom. I've got contacts inside Iran when it comes to the Immortal Guards, a couple of sources, but that's about it. Screw the dirty UN undies. A useless organization. It's a gravy train. The 9-dash line is China's way of spitting on UN. Wow. I saw UN, I read EU. My brain doesn't work. UN rules for the not for me. Japan and the Philippines are holding the line. God bless Japan. Whereas Greg the Eliminator. Well, he's not in charge of the eliminations. He's just in charge of introducing the martyrs to their 72 virgin goats. Hashtag Team Goldie, but I support the peace treaty. Well, I am now officially issuing a fatwa on at KAP-M1B. There's a fatwa on your head for being on Team Goldie. Oh, I forgot there's ceasefire. So yeah, we are all Team Goldie and Team 2C. If I had a video gaming company, I would hire retired IDF members as consultants. Best military games ever. And Mossad, don't forget, those guys have done some crazy operations. Russia did gain a victory from this mess. The whole point of the Ukraine invasion was NATO expansion into Ukraine. No, that wasn't that. That you're listening to what Putin said in 2022, not after 2022, when he said, actually, Ukraine is ours. We should take it because it always belonged to Russia. Nothing to do with NATO. That was just an excuse. Also, NATO wasn't expanding into Ukraine. Ukraine wanted to join as a member of NATO. That's a whole different conversation. How is Kharg Island valuable when IRGC will simply shut off the pipelines that feed the island? Because you're not going to go live on the island. It's not like the Americans are going to take the island to build houses and play house. It's a strategic point, and you take the 90% oil exports from there, they lose all the money. That's the main reason. If the rest of the world can't have the oil, Iran shouldn't have the oil. We will leave NATO. Stay in your lane. Vincent, you are retarded. It's not up to you, it's up to the president. That's not really how it works. We will leave. I told you we will. I would like the US to leave NATO. You absolute weirdo. But that's not going to happen. Anyway, stay in your lane, Vincent. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for watching. I'm Maya Tusi, and we are the media.